The food and beverage industry is one of the hardest hit industries amid this pandemic, but there is a collective effort in the works to help save Idaho's independent restaurants, especially now as the winter months are here and many restaurants that were already struggling aren't able to seat people outside. Our Shira Matsuzawa has been following this effort, and she's here now with a look at what they're doing.
Tammy, we're talking about FAIR Idaho, which stands for Food, Agriculture, Restaurants, and Other Establishments. It's an organization of local independent businesses representing all sectors of Idaho's food and beverage industries, and they formed in the midst of this pandemic. Now, I first reported about their efforts back in September. This week, I reached back out to see how the industry is doing as a whole right now.
Well, it's very stressful. It's very tough.
Dave Crick is the managing partner at Bitter Creek Red Feather and Diablo & Sons restaurants in downtown Boise. He's also the president of FAIR Idaho, an organization of local independent businesses representing all sectors of Idaho's food and beverage industries.
Restaurants and beverage establishments, they've just been uniquely affected by this pandemic through mandated restrictions and repeated closures.
He says restaurants have been left out in the cold figuratively and now literally.
I think, winter has brought an explosion of COVID, cold temperatures, no more outdoor dining, and the public is just reticent to frequent our establishments, and we're seeing it in downtown Boise. It's tough. The office community is working from home. They're working remotely. They're not coming downtown.
And they need help, which is why FAIR Idaho partnered with the Independent Restaurant Coalition and is urging Congress to implement what's known as the Restaurants Act. That's a $120 billion grant package to help restaurants with expenses like rent, payroll, and supplies.
What we need from our state is we need our delegation, Senator Crapo, Senator Risch, to continue to work hard to inject the Restaurants Act into this stimulus bill.
Dave says they've been in talks with the senators and their staff, and while he's optimistic that some kind of bill will get done, it needs to happen sooner rather than later.
We've lost about 112,000 restaurants across the country now. And just in the last 3 months alone, we've lost over 10,000 restaurants, and that's permanently closed forever.
He adds FAIR Idaho has recently started tracking the businesses closing here locally, and within the last week or two, they've counted 20. This, as Dave reveals, he had to lay off a third of his staff in the last couple of weeks.
Our industry is suffering horribly. So as we're working on tax breaks for the state, how about a sales tax break for restaurants and bars for the months of December, January, and February while we're in the worst of this, while we're messaging to the public to stay home?
And in case you're wondering how the Restaurants Act differs from the Paycheck Protection Program from earlier this year, this is a much more flexible program which would allow businesses to put the funds toward additional expenses, not just toward payroll. It's also a grant opposed to a loan. And in addition to pushing for this Restaurants Act, FAIR Idaho is also working with One Idaho through the Department of Commerce and the City of Boise on the Drink and Dine Safe campaign. It's an effort where businesses can sign a pledge that says they are following the local and state guidance to keep the public safe. Tammy?
Okay, thank you, Shira.